Hi, everybody. Let's see. Everything looks good. Hello, everybody. It's Radio Dead Air Tech Q&A. You've got questions. We've got guesses. I'm Nash. Been doing Radio Dead Air for ages, but it's that I'm also an IT professional. With me, as always, my producer, Mike Gearman, who also works in IT. If you have a question for us, you can send that to requests@radiodeadair.com. We'll try to put that on for you. Let me see here.
You've definitely got a wider screen going than I'm used to on what I'm seeing from my end. I mean, from the stream end, it's probably the show end. It's probably about the same. But from my end, yeah, much better camera, I think, dude.
It is. It's not screwing up. Yeah. I replaced my camera since last time, and it is behaving a lot better. I think you can see. See what's going on here. Is this not working right? Oh, that's why. Because that's my keyboard's being goofy. It works. It's just it's not connected straight to the software.
It's always one.
But yeah, we have a newer camera now to replace the DSLR that was having issues. This is a Razer Kia Pro Ultra. Yeah, that's what it is. It is it's probably the first webcam that's like, oh, maybe we should make these that don't suck. It's got a very large image sensor in there, close to being the size of a regular DSLR camera. It's got a very nice screen lens, as you can see. You've got a pretty nice wide range. I'm very happy with it. Quality wise, I have had to do very minimal settings to get a good picture off of it, which is fantastic. I'll take it.
It says in the channel here, Mike is clearly not using a green screen. No, I am wearing a very green shirt. I use a background remover through XSplit. Nash and I were chatting in the chat channel of the other show on Monday, and he mentioned that he didn't know why XSplit still existed, given that OBS does everything that XSplit does. And I discovered that XSplit does one thing better than OBS, and that is background removal. Because I tried OBS's background removal, and it's not good. That said, I may be using the settings wrong on it.
Are you pleased with yourself, little bit? Look at you. You're very happy with yourself.
Who, the cat?
Now you want attention? Yeah, he wants attention. Grady wants attention. He's very pleased with himself.
He sees the microphone get rotated out. It is a pattern recognition thing. He sees the microphone get rotated out. He goes, oh, no, time to interrupt.
Yep, time to interrupt. You happy, buddy?
I swear, though, he can tell when the camera's on because he always faces away from the camera or hides his face. Like he's like, no, I'm not ready for my close-up, Mr. DeVille.
I gotta do stuff, buddy. You picked the wrong time. He doesn't care. All right, so it's another week and another reckoning with all the nonsense going on in the economy, which is pooping on just about everything else. I mean, dang. I've said this before. I'm really happy that I decided to focus this on fixing and repairing and helping people make the most out of what they can monetarily with their tech stuff, because new stuff it's hard to get excited about new stuff that you can't get, and that's coming very soon. And
I'm going to say I'm also very glad that I built this new computer in December.
Yeah,
because I could probably afford to build a new computer now if something happened. I don't want to afford to build a new computer.
Part of why I moved ahead with replacing the camera instead of just soldiering on for a while longer was I wanted to get it while I still could. It's not even just a matter of not being able to get stuff cheap. It's a matter of we're concerned we're not being able to get stuff at all. And the good news is, however, in the short term, I guess, good news, there's been a big spike in PC sales of late, Shipment increased 6.7% in the first quarter of 2025 compared to the same quarter from last year. There's a couple reasons for that. Number one, the first one that weighs heavily on everyone's mind now is the nonsense that are the tariffs. Are there no tariffs? Are there 300% tariffs? Are there 7% tariffs? We don't know. Every day it changes. It's like you spin the wheel and it's a surprise.
I'm going to add to this. He, and you all know who I'm referring to, he said, "Oh, we're almost there. We're about to sign deals with 200 nations." And there's a slight problem with that.
Uh-huh.
Well, there's two slight problems. One, they haven't had the time to actually do that. And two, there are not 200 nations.
Yeah, there aren't. It's considerably less.
Well, it's not considerably less. It is less, but it's like depending, and this is where it gets screwy. Depending on which website you look at, it is 193 or 195. And I haven't dug deep into it to go, are they not counting Taiwan? What are they not counting here? Who are they not?
Who knows?
But there's not 200.
The other issue coming up is this is Microsoft's fault, which I will stress this. Windows 10 is coming up in October. It's going to be facing end of support. Now, to clarify what that means, you will still be able to use Windows 10. It's just there will no longer be free updates for your system, so that if there's a security alert comes up, if they find what's called a 0-day bug in Windows that gets exploited, there's no fix for it. Unless I think Windows will have a limited window of paid support for those mission critical folks who need to have Windows 10.
They will have that. And if past history is anything to go off of, if the bug is massive enough, they may go, yes, you know what? We are going to put out a Windows 10 patch for this because holy crap if we don't. Oh, it's bad. Which they've done at least 2 or 3 times in the past.
Yeah. But also what happened this time is Microsoft is putting out a very aggressive push to get everybody to upgrade to Windows 11.
Oh, yeah.
And
absolutely.
Unfortunately, the problem is a lot of people can't. So they get this big advertisement saying, you should upgrade to Windows 11. They push the Windows 11 button to upgrade, and the system goes, nope, can't. This computer sucks. And the problem is your computer doesn't suck.
For you.
Yeah.
It's because there's some rather arbitrary, in certain cases, preconditions for Windows 11. And part of them is stuff that's like, no, Windows 11 doesn't really need that feature. You just want it to have that feature. And others are, no, if the computer doesn't have that, they have to buy a new computer. That's what you're really trying to do here. You're trying to not screw over the computer manufacturers the way Microsoft has done at least once in the past by going, no, the specs aren't that bad. You can use your current computer.
Yeah, the thing here is Microsoft, the arbitrary cutoff on Windows 10, that systems approximately, if your system is older than approximately 5 years, if you are using a Ryzen 1000 or older processor, and that includes Threadripper, or if you're using, I believe, an Intel 6000 or earlier, it might be 7,000 or earlier. It's hard. I forget what there is a cutoff there. About 5 or 6 year old system, because we're talking late 2017, so about a 6-year-old computer. If your computer is older than that, Windows 11 will tell you it won't run. Now that is a lie, because there are workarounds that can allow you to install Windows 11 on your system. The problem is, number one, you can't upgrade. If you want to install Windows 11 on your system, you're going to have to start completely over. You have to wipe Windows and start from scratch. You'll have to make your own installer using a program called Rufus. and then you'll have to install fresh. But you will be able to run Windows 11 without problem. See, I've mentioned this before. The dirty little secret of Windows is Windows 11 is really just Windows Vista. There have been changes, there have been upgrades, there have been updates, but under the hood, on a structural basis to ensure backwards compatibility, it's the same operating system. So the system that runs Windows 7 or Windows 10, pretty much anything within the last 10 years or thereabouts, maybe a little older, can run Windows 11. It's just this arbitrary, the trusted, what is it? TPM? What does it? Hell does that stand for? Trusted processor platform module.
Which is an encryption module. Used to be, it was a chip on the motherboard. Now they've basically got it as a firmware module. Although some of the older motherboards will still be on a chip, or some motherboards will just do entirely on a chip just because it's cheaper. And what it does is it does encryption for various things, including but not limited to, hey, we're going to make sure that people can't put stuff into the BIOS, or we're going to, encrypt the boot up, which, is useful.
There are uses for it, but making it a requirement instead of being like an extra added feature, because you can install Windows 11 without those parts present, and it runs fine. I have Windows 11 running on a laptop that is Intel 4000 series. It's fairly old. All I really need for just a knock around laptop, and I have Windows 11 running on it with no trouble. The problem here is Microsoft wanted to push people to upgrade. So, sales have spiked a pretty big 6.7% growth. Of course, another improvement was we finally got most of the next generation of video cards are out. So people have been using that as an excuse to upgrade as well.
Exactly.
People were holding off.
I'm going to be in the computer anyway. Why not replace more?
Yeah. Trouble is, we are going to be seeing. We'll talk about this more as we come to October. We're going to see a wave of e-waste off of this. A lot of perfectly good computers are going to be thrown away.
A lot of perfectly good computers should be converted to a Linux computer and had something useful done with them, but that won't happen for a lot of people.
On the other hand, there are going to be a lot of used computers that are effectively going to be an absolute steal.
Yes.
That you can run Linux or you could run a Windows 11 on them, but they are going to be an absolute rock bottom basement steal simply because Windows will not allow you to straight upgrade. If you know what you're doing, you can take these computers, use them for actual compute. If you just want to use a game, you want to use them as a home server, you want to use it for any purposes like that. These are going to be excellent machines that are just going to be dumped in mass.
Something I am going to say here, if you are in the position where you say, I'm just going to upgrade my computer. I'm not worried about the Rufus thing. I don't want to try to do that. I'm just going to buy a computer that can run Windows 11. My recommendation, and maybe Nash's recommendation too, is when you're looking at these computers, do not, and I repeat, do not get something that is Copilot enabled.
Yeah.
If you can avoid it.
There's a very few systems right now, and they are more expensive as well. They're listed as Copilot Plus. They're typically all laptops, because the only AI enabled chips so far are mobile ones. That's Ryzen 300 AI, and then something Intel 200, and then a Snapdragon version. And those are all
laptops.
Those are laptops. If they don't have those, you don't have to deal with Windows recalls, because it won't work on your system.
And that is the reason I'm saying avoid this, because the Windows recall thing, which has been re-released again this week, and it's garbage. it was born garbage. It will die garbage.
Yeah.
Is only available on Copilot PC. So if you can avoid getting a Copilot PC, you will avoid having that garbage potentially thrust upon you, even though Microsoft says it is opt-in.
Again, it's a very limited range. It's only laptops, and they're very expensive. You have to pay a premium for them. So, cool. You're like moving them out. Like, you don't have to worry about it.
The likelihood is low that any of our viewers are going to pick one up, but I still feel the need to make the warning.
Meanwhile, this is kind of a good news, bad news for Intel. Good news is Intel has sold a lot of CPUs this last quarter. Bad news is they're not the current model.
No, it's all the older, cheaper stuff. Again, hey, it's a bargain. It will upgrade to Windows 11. And it's not the hot garbage that Lunar Lake is.
Well, Lunar Lake, let's stress, Lunar Lake is not bad. Intel's Lunar Lake is the most current processors, the Core Ultra series, the 200s. They're not bad. In fact, if we look down here, like there's some Adobe Premiere scores down here, you can see compared to the 14900K, compared to the 9950X, they're not bad. They're just not better. They are approximately the same performance as the most recent generation. And the reason for this is because Intel, we talked about this when it came out, Intel was backed into a corner on the Core Ultra series in that their only option to get faster performance out of their CPUs was to break with older designs and come up with something radically new, or keep forcing more and more electricity into the chips. And that had already caused problems before.
Yeah, they couldn't force more electricity into the chips without melting things or catching them on fire. And yes, things were melting and catching fire.
Permanently damaging the chips was what's happened with a lot of the 12th, 13th, and 14th. Some of those are permanently damaged. But the Core, so what they did was they got rid of hyper-threading. They reconfigured the chip. It's not as good efficiently, it's not as efficient as Ryzen has been lately, but it's much more efficient than Raptor Lake in the previous generations. And they work fairly well. I mean, they use less. The main draw of them is they get the same sort of performance with a lot less power. But people want better performance, not the same. And in that regard, well, AMD has been kicking their butt. However, if you're looking for a deal, the Raptor Lake and the 12th, 13th, and 14th gen CPUs, which all can use DDR5 and the second most recent motherboards, fairly decent, and you could get them cheaper than Intel's current ones. So those have been selling out. People looked at them as like, a quick deal to get a Windows 11 compliant machine, relatively modern.
And given that up to a few weeks ago, Intel was going, how can we clear these off the shelves? I know, we'll cut the prices. Oh, people are buying them instead of the other. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we'll eventually run out.
Intel is still charging the kind of price as if they were the market leader, that they had the fastest CPUs and they were the best. And they're not. In fact, AMD has pretty much lapped them in every regard. Like, this was in sports, they call it a rebuilding year. This was Intel's, they had to start over so they could get better later. But first they had to start over.
I know what that's like. I'm a Chicago Bears fan.
Yeah. So, I mean, another thing that's also probably not helping the Core Ultra sales is news came out this week that the Core Ultra 200 CPUs, yeah, they're the only one that's going to use that socket. This is a one-generation motherboard.
Oh, that's a bad design decision.
If you were an early adopter of the Core Ultra 200 series, that's it. One motherboard, no upgrades.
Okay, so the only way that will make any sense is if the next generation from Intel gets a massive, and I do mean massive, in excess of 20% performance increase at the same power and a similar cost.
Now, people are going, why in the channel? I can tell you exactly why. The 200 series hasn't sold well, so Intel's thinking, well, we're not going to affect that many people, except the people who did buy them. Your core enthusiast customers. Yeah, you burnt them. I speak from experience because I got a 1000 series Threadripper, a 1950X. It was a great CPU with some glitches. It was a first gen. 16 core, 32 thread, which back in 2017 was fucking amazing. However, it only got one generation upgrade, which was barely even an upgrade. The second generation of Threadripper was just mainly some memory controller corrections. Wasn't that much faster. And then it was dead. That socket was dead. I had no upgrade path. I had to wait for AM5 to be able to justify an upgrade. I was stuck with that platform for ages.
So if anyone from Intel is ever watching this show, and they're not, but if they are, what you could do, what you should do, is maybe offer a discount to anyone who can prove that they bought this socket, and just say, yeah, we know, our bad, we're sorry. Here's some money off the next one, because
they are having a new CEO come in. Gelsinger's out. We'll have to see what the policies are regarding that, what they do. But yeah, Intel they're hurting right now. They are seriously hurting. One more story this week. This is from the Department of Fool Me Once, shame on you, fool me twice, won't get fooled again. T-Mobile is trying to offer yet again a price lock, which if you've been following for a long time, they're currently involved in a lawsuit about the last time they offered a price lock.
So T-Mobile, a number of years ago, offered a lifetime price guarantee. Was lifetime? It was lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, they put some weasel words in the contract, but that may not have been weaselly enough.
Yeah.
And they tried to get out of that, and now they're being sued. So in
lifetime turned out to be 5 years, which,
yes,
if you happen to be, say, a small rodent, then yes, you would that would qualify as a lifetime.
I have a more timely example. If you were a Pope and picked up a T-Mobile phone last year.
Ouch. Little dark.
I suspect he has cardinals for that. I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
So they're putting out a new price lock plan, and it's very weaselly as well, because it's not good.
No.
Because it doesn't include taxes. It doesn't include fees. And as we all know with phone companies, they will invent fees to go, the profit bucket is looking a little thin right now. Why don't we invent a $1 fee that applies to our million customers monthly?
And right now we have an FCC and an FTC that will pretty much let them get away with anything. So trusting any promise they make, any company makes, honestly, right now, trusting them to say, but you promised, we're going to see a lot of a large range of customers being ripped off by a lot of companies, because if it's not illegal, it's good business. allegedly. You know, the main issue is, who cares? A little bit of, we're making money, and we're not. Are we going to jail? Are we fined? No. All right, that's fine then. That's fine. No big deal. It's going to be really tricky. Like, this is just kind of reminding me that we're going to have a regulatory environment. It's going to be entirely up to states, because the federal regulatory environment is pretty much dead at the moment. Any federal regulations are not going to be upheld.
Unless they actually run over a Trump family member, and suddenly those federal regulations be really heavily enforced.
It depends on the Trump. I mean, I don't know if he'd even remember Tiffany. So, if he ran over, it's like he'd have to think about it for a minute.
I think if a Cybertruck ran over Eric, it'd be a toss-up.
Yeah, it'd be toss-up. Because
at best,
right? Technically, right now, just saying, Eric is just around as spare parts. That's all he's there for. He's spare parts.
I still take the position that he's not actually Trump's son. He's Gary Busey's son.
He might. If Trump Eric is there in case Trump needs a kidney or a lung, even a heart, maybe. So, but California has had a pretty good track record of being. California, Washington, Oregon, to some extent, the West Coast has had a good track record of trying to be consumer focused and trying to keep companies from screwing you over. New York might step up a little. They've been stepping up a little bit over time as well. Maryland,
you're in South Carolina. You're
You're
screwed.
Yeah. Well, maybe or maybe not, because what happens is if something like California forces companies to behave, that tends to spread out to other states as well, just to make interstate commerce easier. But we don't know.
Just to comment on South Carolina, and it's a seg. There was a period over the last 10 years where a group of states would get together to sue someone, and South Carolina would be in there, and then South Carolina would drop out, and the states would win, and South Carolina would come back in and go, "Hey, we were in this, right? We get a cut." We get, oh yeah, or we can sue separately. Okay, we'll get a cut.
So, in any event, if you are planning, just keep that in mind. This is really going to depend. Any backup, any following the law, a lot of contracts are all going to depend on effectively where you live. And T-Mobile already has a track record of not being good about that. Now, weird thing is, I use T-Mobile by way of Google Fi, which already that's the thing. But that gives me a little bit of a buffer. I'm going by Google Fi's rules to access T-Mobile stuff. So I want pay as you go. I just use whatever data, if I use over a certain amount. So
when I first got a cell phone 23 years ago, right the week before I drove from South Carolina to California, it was T-Mobile. Yeah, it was T-Mobile. And then I got out here and I discovered that, the T-Mobile rep had not technically lied to me about there being coverage out here. It was not good coverage. And as soon as my contract was up, I switched companies.
Mine was Sprint, which is T-Mobile now, because that's just how shit goes. All right. Anyway, that is the news for this week. Now we're going to look at some of your questions. If you have them, go ahead and fire those off. We still have room this week. We don't have a lot, but we do have a few. All righty. Let's start off with, this is from, I like the username here. This is clever. DRider X. So it's deride or X. So we got the Speed Racer reference in there. You get Rider X, DRider. Okay, that's clever. All right. Hey, Nash and Mike, I have an older phone. I need to keep it going, but I'm worried about the battery life. I've been using it for about 4 years now, and I probably want to keep it another year or two. Maybe once all this tariff stuff is over, I can get a new one. I don't really feel safe trying to replace the battery myself, so how about a power bank? If I carry one around with me and keep it plugged in, will that be just as good? I know it's bulky, but you got to do what you got to do.
Well, the first question I'm going to ask is your battery failing currently? Because if it's not, I mean, I just keep going until it starts and then maybe go to the power bank.
Well, the power bank, that's not going to work. There's a reason why. And this is also similar to laptops. When you plug in your phone or when you plug in your laptop, the way they're designed these days, it wasn't always like this, but the way they're designed these days is the power does not go straight to the computer part. It doesn't go straight to your phone part. It goes through the charging system first to the battery. Your phone and your computer, and I believe tablets these days, are always drawing off the battery first. The charge keeps the battery going, but it's never getting its power directly from that charging socket. So if the first thing you have to take into account is charging speed. If you have a fast enough charging speed where you can charge it faster than the system draws power away from it, you'll never notice the battery even going down very much. But the battery is being drawn on and being used. It's just charging fast enough you don't notice it. However, if the battery's not in good shape and it starts failing, you can still have that charger going to the battery, to your phone, like the power bank plugged in. It's not going to matter because you'll still have to, the phone will still shut off for a while the battery tries to charge itself however much possible. And then you power back up and it keeps going. And they mainly started doing this when it came to a point where you couldn't remove batteries. So it does save them some money from making that the circuitry so you can plug in directly and get power from the wall. It saves them some money to force you to go straight through the battery at all times. That's circuitry they don't have to add to the system. Now, older systems, it depends. Like someone in the channel, Catastrophic Imp. There we go. She's saying that still use my MacBook. The battery is physically missing right now. Yeah, some older systems did with the, if you could take the battery out of it, it would let you still keep using it without the battery in it. But it's been kind of a history now that if you can't take the battery out of the device, you're not going to get power straight from the wall. Yeah. And phones generally don't have it because, again, that's extra circuitry. They try to keep phones as cheap as possible and as light as possible. So you will be able to recharge it to the degree however well the battery works, but it's not going to be a replacement for a new battery. It's just going to, it'll keep you limping along maybe, but it's not going to be very effective. I will say, depending on if you have a repair place nearby, and I know they're getting rarer and rarer, but if you do have a repair place nearby and you are willing to provide them with parts, for the cost of labor, they can replace your battery as needed. If you provide,
it's usually not that bad.
Yeah. Right now, the main problem for repair places is sourcing parts. If you give them something like an old OEM or a third-party aftermarket battery, and you say, hey, can you just put this in there for me and get it working? And then, end of the day, that probably won't run you more than, I want to say, $100, because that's maybe an hour's work for a phone.
Now, does that $100 include the parts?
No, you'd have to provide the parts yourself.
I'm saying, is that $100 parts plus labor, or is that okay? So that's just labor.
The batteries are surprisingly cheap. You can get a new battery for like $20 if you can find the right battery. They're not that expensive. The main holdup on getting phones repaired is the labor cost, because you have to know what you're doing. And again, you don't feel comfortable taking it apart. I'm going to say mine. If my battery hadn't already swollen and popped the back off my phone, I would have been less confident about it. When it came to get my screen replaced, the screen was already cracked, so I didn't feel bad about messing the screen up when I took it out. But yeah, you need heat guns, or iFixit actually makes this little gel pack that or I don't know what's in it, but you microwave it for a while and it provides heat. So instead of a heat, it's a little safer than a heat gun, but it takes a little bit longer to work too. So it's all these damn things are glued together. It's a pain in the butt. Is there EU law user service battery change for 2027? Yes, Rurutu, but that's not now. That's much later, and it is not now.
And it may not happen for the U.S., even though it would make sense for the companies not to make two models of phones. They may still do so.
It might. We'll have to see. I'd be nice, but, you know, a lot of things would be nice right now. So, yeah, DeRider, you might have to just bite the bullet and get the battery replaced. It's just the nature of how they work. I would get have a look. There is some free software you can get for your phone to maybe see how much wear there is currently on your battery, and you can judge for yourself what shape your battery's in, and maybe you want to go ahead with it, or maybe you want to wait a bit. So, all right, this is from Lisa. Hi, Nash and Mike and Kitties. I have about 400 I can spend right now, and I want to get whatever kind of upgrade I can before things get bad. Tell me what to get. This one's kind of a problem. System is an Intel i5 11400F. B560A Pro. Thermaltake Smart 650 watt, 1 terabyte Western Digital black SSD, and a PNY RTX 3060 12 gig. The CPU is rough here. We were just talking about this with Intel. They don't give you very many CPU upgrades per socket. Typically you get, if you're lucky, 2. And the 11th gen is the second one for that socket, for the B560 motherboard range. So you have no upgrade path for your CPU. Meaning if you want, and you have no upgrade path for your RAM, because that's also DDR4.
I mean, you have the upgrade path in that you could get better or bigger stuff, but not because you can go higher than it.
Oh yeah, you can go higher than i5. I mean, you can get like an i7, but I feel like, or an i9 even, but I feel like that'd be a waste of money. I feel like you wouldn't, the return of you would be much better off waiting to buy, but you know, waiting to buy right now is paying the butt. You'd be much better off doing a full replacement. For $400. Oof.
Does that motherboard support an M.2? I would throw an M.2 on there if it does.
I think it's already got an M.2. She's got an SSD in there already. It's Western Digital 1 terabyte.
I'll see. I'm still of the mindset when someone says an SSD, I'm thinking, you know, a SATA drive.
All
right,
yeah,
could be.
That RTX 3060 12 gig, it's not terrible. It's not the best right now, but for 1080p, you should be okay for a little while. Shit. Prices are just sucky right now. Maybe, all right, it's $200 for a Ryzen 5 7600. And you could probably get a B650 motherboard for about $150. Raritor. Oh yeah, is there a Micro Center nearby? Because you can get like a bundle deal on a Micro Center.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then another $50. Oof, that would stick you with maybe DDR5, 16 gigs. Okay, well you can get a kit of DDR5. It's only 16 gigs, but you could do it for about $50. So, all right. It'd be cutting it damn close. And Raritor is right. If you have a Micro Center nearby, go to the Micro Center because they do offer bundles of motherboards and RAM and CPUs for under the price. You are just barely, if we figure about 200 for a Ryzen 5 7600 and 150-ish for a B650 motherboard and $50 for a DDR5 kit, Kingston Fury DDR5 16 gigabytes. That's about $400.
And the bundle, if you get lucky, may take you up to 32.
Yeah. I would recommend, of all the stuff you have there, that 11400F is the one that's going to be holding you back. You've got an old motherboard. It's probably PCIe. Is that PCIe 3? 11400, it's PCIe 3, right? Let's see. B560 sure. PCIe. Is it PCIe 4.0?
Helps if I spell that correctly.
No, you did. Yeah. 11th gen has PCIe 4.0. All right. So there's that. There's that much. Because depending on the CPU. So you do have PCIe 4.0, but that CPU is effectively a dead end. That's the RAM's limitation. If you ever want to get any more upgrades later, AM5 is your best bet. The Ryzen 5 7600 is on a par with the 5800 X3D performance-wise. So it's a really good CPU, big jump there. Now, there's better stuff now, but you will notice a big improvement moving to just a Ryzen 5 7600. Might want to look for some open box or even used stuff if you feel comfortable with it. Remember, you can still use let's see, B550, not B550, B650. What are the chipsets for Ryzen right now? Damn it. AM5 chipsets. Let me look these up. Right, 850. Yeah, 850. B650 would be better because, you know, it's cheaper and it's still about the same as the B850. So yeah, B650 probably better go around. You will have upgrade room. You will have a path. You will have DDR. You can upgrade later. It gives you that's what I would go with personally if I were you. It's going to be a stretch. It's going to be, you're going to have to like nickel and dime it to get it just under the wire. That's not even counting taxes. Because even with like a 10% tax, that puts you at a 440. So you're going to have to push it. But yeah, of all the things on your list, your power supply, if it's working, it's still, I mean, that's a thermal, right? A thermal take. It's smart 650. It's not great, but could be worse. Yeah, the 1 terabyte Western Digital Black SSD, that's pretty good, actually. So you're good there for a while. You don't mention if it's PCIe 3 or 4. Doesn't really matter if we're talking about this grade of system. So the RTX 3060 12 gig is a little long in the tooth right now, but you've got some good video RAM on there, which gives you a little bit of help. And if you're just going to stay around 1080p gaming, you should be pretty solid around there. You'll still have access to DLSS, which will give you some buffer room and leeway there, or FSR if you're using a game that doesn't support DLSS. So, I mean, whatever video cards you could get in that range, they're going to be incredibly overpriced. You'd probably be looking to maybe get a used one anyway. And yeah, I mean, that's a solid card for right now. It's not the best, but it's certainly not the worst. That's a good deal. So of all the things you have, I'd say you're look for a B650 motherboard, 16 gigs of DDR5, and a Ryzen 5 7600. That's probably going to get you to a solid place where if things settle down ever, you'll have an upgrade path and you'll be able to get more out of your system. But the one thing that's holding you back right now is that 11400. And, well, you can't, I mean, if you're going to get Intel now, you're kind of screwed on that regard as well. So Intel's kind of a mess right now. OBKB. Got one more question tonight. Let's see if anything new has come in just to double check. Nothing tonight. All right. Last question here. This is from Nathan. He says, I'm going to take the plunge and jump into a Home Assistant server before the tariff. Everybody's before the tariffs hit tonight. Good Lord. I've got an old Intel i5 6200U laptop, and I'm not using, and it doesn't seem like it uses a lot of computing power, so I think this should be fine. Yeah, Home Assistant is not real computing intensive. It's you could pretty much run it on your regular desktop in the background. You wouldn't really notice it, but having a dedicated one's kind of better. My question isn't about that, but the external ecosystems. What are the main differences between Zigbee, Thread, and Matter? And which one should I base my setup on? I'm looking to get some light bulbs and a couple of smart switches, I think. Might want to get a thermometer at some point. Thanks, Nathan. Oh boy. Okay. For those who don't know what we're talking about here,
Which includes me.
First gen of home automation stuff, the smart stuff, about 10 years back. The first generation was all closed ecosystems. You had to get stuff that worked within this one set of stuff. Things very rarely, if ever, work together. Like you could have smart lights and a smart camera for your house, and they wouldn't know what the hell they wouldn't talk to each other because they were completely different setups. And or like smart thermometer, you have to have like 3 different apps for every different thing, and it was a pain, just pain in the butt.
Eventually, people realized this was a bad idea.
Well,
ish.
So they started broadening out the ecosystems. So you would have an Alexa ecosystem. You would have a Google Home ecosystem. You have smaller companies would have them as well. The trouble with that being is all of these fuckers phoned home. They all required you to have a login and a password, and you would set up with someone else's server way far away. So even if you were running the stuff in your house, it would have to talk to a computer across the country or sometimes across the world, then talk back to you just so they could keep track of your data and crap. And it was really crappy. We're now in a new generation of stuff. It's not just Home Assistant, but Home Assistant is the main open source basis that allows you to use, you can set up your own stuff. You don't necessarily need to talk to all that stuff far away. And Home Assistant has a lot of open source design modules that let you use a lot of different stuff all together. And in the meanwhile, also other ecosystems have stretched out. Alexa allows you to use a lot of third-party stuff now. Google Home does as well. And part of the basis of this are these protocols they've developed. Zigbee is actually a really old one. It's out from the late 90s, I believe. Instead of using your 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi or your 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, what Zigbee does is it uses a lower frequency, like a 900 hertz, I think, a lower frequency Wi-Fi, where it doesn't require as much power. You're not transmitting nearly as much data, but it allows low power devices to be connected to this mesh network. The only drawback to Zigbee is you have to have a dedicated device, like a router or a USB stick or something like this, that allows your network to talk to Zigbee devices. It needs a hub to work with other Zigbee devices. Thread is very similar to Zigbee. It's just a different sort of protocol that, they are sort of mutually exclusive, though some devices can talk to both. It depends on what you get. Matter is a newer iteration, and this is kind of a better deal in that if a device is Matter certified, if it has the Matter symbol on it, you just need one hub to work off of. And that can be Home Assistant with no other hardware. So just a Home Assistant computer set up, or some other hub if you don't use Home Assistant or something. It runs off 2.4 gigahertz. It doesn't need a new wavelength sort of setup. It runs off standard Wi-Fi. Thread is something that Matter works with because it's a low power, But if you use Thread, you have to have a special router to talk to Thread because it uses a lower bandwidth frequency. So Thread and Matter are kind of related. Matter, some devices are Matter, some devices are Matter certified, but they only talk with Thread. But so Matter and Thread and Zigbee are like two different little islands. The good news here, even going through all that stuff, the good news for you here is you're using Home Assistant. Home Assistant does not give a crap. You can use bunches of different ecosystems, and either Home Assistant natively can communicate with those devices, or someone will have written a third-party plugin to let it work with those devices. We have a Honeywell thermostat, and we have these no-name knockoff light switch things I have her in here, and we just got some Tapo cameras for outside for the cats. They're 3 different manufacturers, and the shit all
because
works
because they're using the same protocols, you can make them work together.
Yeah. I will say the one thing about Matter, if I'm remembering correctly, is it can be configured 100% no phone home. Completely running what the device does not, it's as home automation should have been from the beginning. It does not require a server elsewhere. You just have to have something locally, and that's all Matter needs. So that opens up a lot of possibilities, and the era of data mining hopefully is coming to a slow end. Yeah, hello, Charlie. Hi, buddy. You want to come up? You come say hi to everybody? Hello, little furry monster man. Hello, say hi. Say hi, furry monster man. How you doing? You have no idea where you are. Oh, there he goes.
He's an orange cat in the body of a black and white cat.
Yeah. Is his orange cat brain. But he's a good boy. We love him. Orange cat brain. Orange cat brain. Bye-bye. Thanks, buddy. I love you. I love you too. Thank you. Are you done? There you go. Home Assistant is fairly helpful in regards to stuff. Now, I will point out not everything. For example, we had to rip out we had to take out the Wise cameras I was using for a while because Wise changed their API and they pushed an update to the cameras, a firmware update to the cameras, and suddenly the cameras wouldn't work properly with the workaround for Home Assistant anymore. So I had to get the TP-Link cameras where I could talk directly to the camera without having to worry about a third-party login. So that's where Matter comes in, and they're like platform agnostic. So hopefully that's where things move, as long as it still works out. But the only thing about Zigbee, even if you have a Home Assistant server, you're going to need a Zigbee. I believe it's a USB stick. It's like $30, but you are going to have some way for Zigbee to talk to Zigbee devices because, again, it's low power. It's not standard Wi-Fi. It needs its own special hub to talk to the devices. You're going to find that with some devices are low power, and you're going to find that a lot, especially with thermostats, because if they use like a little coin cell battery, or batteries not meant to be replaced very often, just sort of set and forget for a while, those are low power devices and they're not as likely to use Wi-Fi. So if you're getting Zigbee, the only thing you have to remember there is you'll need a third-party hub. If you're getting Thread devices, you'll need some sort of Thread certified connection for Home Assistant. But Matter devices, unless that states otherwise, Matter devices do not need any separate third-party stuff. Matter devices just work, supposedly. So, All right. That is questions for tonight. All right. That's going to do it. Whew. Okay, folks. Thank you so much for being here with us, as always. We are so happy to have you stop by and give us your questions and whatnot. We'll be back next Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you have tech questions for us, you can send those, as always, please send those to request@radiodeadair.com, or you can put those in the comments of the YouTube and we will add those along. Until then, for Mike and myself, we will see you next time. Good night, folks.